Well, I think I'd like to have the green up top, green diagonally, as I was just going on about. So this bush, this bushy area, this ground cover, is going to be kind of purple, leaning in the direction of red. Well, it's going to be red. It's just that so much of it will be in the shadow that it's mostly going to appear to be purple, because red in the shadow appears as purple, right? So I'll do that. You know, it's also part of our cradle. You know, behind here we're going to get into the oranges and more of the ochres, more of the fall colors. So I would like something strong to set that against. Let's see. Maybe the bottom of this as well will be a bit purplish. I'm just feathering that off like that because as I get to the top of this foreground plane of this little bush, I'd like it to stand out a little bit. Now I don't have to be fussy about it because it's not the final painting, it's just a wash-in. I'm just sort of leave myself a trail of breadcrumbs, I guess. And we'll do something similar here. But not here, because this stands proud of everything else. Behind it, a bit darker, fine. Okay, I'm going to step up the value very slightly, and I'm going to add a little more red with my touch of white. Just warming it up. Not much. And again, you know, on camera, you don't see the subtleties like I do. You just can't. It's not possible. So what I'm doing is I'm raising the value ever so slightly, but I'm also warming it up by adding a little more alizarin crimson. Okay, so that, you know, it's not a lot of difference between here and here. Actually, on camera that might really show up, but the fact is, there's not a ton of difference, but I still want this to stand proud of that. So we're keeping it a bit on the dark side, and we'll go here and something like that. Okay, back to my lighter shades here without getting too light. I'm going to put a bunch of light in there. It's going to be when I'm actually jumping in there with the knife, if it's going to be a knife painting, and I still don't know about that. Now I can take that cold and I can put it on the back side of this foreground bit. But I'm still going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson to it. Gradually, excuse me, gradually warming the colors up. Blue is cold, red is warm. Okay, those are just little spots, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. A little more white, a little more alizarin crimson. It's funny, I see it very clearly on my palette, but not so clearly on the canvas. That's okay. If I'm too dark, I think I've mentioned this a lot of times, if I'm too dark, I'm not worried about it. Too dark is always better than too light. You're always painting light over dark, if you have any sense. Oh, and if you're painting in oils. Watercolors, that's a different story. Even acrylics, you know, acrylics can be handled so many different ways that, you know, the ideas that I'm suggesting don't apply to anything but my own technique of doing well. Okay, purple bush, purple mass. Okay, we'll get back to you on that. So again, we're just talking about the edge of the painting right now. So it's not the most important area. We want to keep it dumbed down. I left some of these colors on my palette, and I mixed in a lot of yellow ochre and some alizarin crimson because I need it to stay dark. I need it to stay toned down. Even though we're, you know, going into the arena of the fall colors now, there should be somewhat of a gradual change. Certainly because we're at the edge of the painting. So that's what we're playing with right now. Trying to more or less stay with the theme and not get too crazy. I'd like it to curve down like this a little bit. And you know, I painted in and outlined the major trees on this painting. And that's all I worried about. Washing in the background now is somewhat indeterminate as far as shapes go, but what's going to happen is that this area will dry and I can paint right over the wash in. I can lay in a few trunks, you know, wherever I deem them necessary or viable or what have you. And that's fine because they're pushed back. They're not as important. They don't have to be as dark as the edges of the foreground trunks, you know, or as high in chroma. So that's what I'm playing with. And again, it's a little bit like playing with a coloring book. I sure don't mind it. I kind of enjoy it because, in a way, yeah, it's a lot of labor because you're cutting it around all these different shapes, but it's fun. I'm only going to go so far with this tonight, but I still have a pile of paint on my palette that I've already mixed for doing this, so well, then I may as well do it, right? And then I'm going to sit down for a while and watch YouTube videos, just like you're doing right now. Might have thinned that paint off a little bit too much, but whatever. You know, I come this way, I put the odd dash of paint in here and there. Fine, don't worry about it. We're working a painting up, we're not working it down. And when you work a painting up, you raise its intensity, you raise its chroma and its value. So You know, there's no harm in emptying your brush in other areas because it provides some unity. Little spots of this color elsewhere in the painting, they just provide for interest and richness as far as I'm concerned anyway. You know, the washing is not about detail, it's not about exacting your colors, as long as you don't go too high in value. It's just another layer and another guide. And yes, I'm blithering. So I'm just gonna shut down now. And I think that's it for today. I'll see you guys after the weekend. Thanks for watching. There, I just thought I'd bring the whole painting into view so you can see the start of that. Okay, see ya. So now we're starting to get our colors placed, more or less what goes where, not super accurately, and all in a much lower value than what we're going to end up with finally. But it's coming, you know, it looks less like a jumble of lines now, you know, and things are becoming more cohesive. It's, you know, you can see that, oh yeah, we have a tree and a tree and a tree, you know, these three dots. You get a little worried about symmetry or you know, mundaneness, but it's not a big deal. What ends up happening once I have my main trees all washed in, then I'll see things show up that I didn't see before. You know, we have a sort of a bow here and a bow here, and let's see, oh, a bow here, and oh, another one here, you know, and they're all kind of at the same level. So it gets to be a bit monotonous. Once they stand out, okay, I can change that. They're not directly in line, so maybe I'll put another bow in behind here, just to make sure that they're staggered a little bit, so we don't end up with too much of a line. May even have a little bit, you know, in behind the cabin, a bit of a bow coming up. That stuff reveals itself very clearly once you start to work, you know, on your individual trees, get it in place. Something I didn't necessarily see when it was just a charcoal drawing, right? Anyway, that's what I'm doing. We're on to this one now. Okay, off we go. So before I forget, I guess I should say Happy Canada Day or Happy Canada Day weekend to my fellow Canadians. And in a few days, Happy Independence Day to our American neighbors to the south. Anyway, okay, I'll just finish up here. I think I've decided to stick with more of the fall colors even on this one. I just can't abide having this green and this green on either side of the painting. I don't want to break it up too much, so I think I'm going to stay fairly sort of warm and yellowish on this one. I'll change the trunk slightly, play with the top. Yeah, one of you guys mentioned, maybe it was Bob, mentioned that, or Sorrel, I'm not sure. Anyway, one of you guys mentioned that Prussian blue, which this sort of approximates, has a sort of a nocturnal look to it. And I agree completely. It's a fantastic color for a nocturne. It's just warm, it's inviting, but it's still kind of blue, you know, without being too harsh. Alright, got this one in. That's it. We'll talk to you after the weekend.